Hi, Dale Henry, and welcome to Unit 2. During this unit, we've read a lot of information on ethical behavior, and I want to kind of give you some of my take on that, as well as something that will start introducing us to the next unit. So let's just jump in talking about ethics. It's never going to be out of style to do what's right. A number of years ago, a theory kind of came along. It was called situational ethics. I said that was just a really long phrase for the word lie. Situational ethics means that you tell the truth when the truth benefits you, but not when it doesn't. And we've all saw the result of that, Enron, what happened in the mortgage business. Anytime you let those type of managerial decisions come in the way, you're just. Here's the way my grandfather put it. My grandfather said that if you're going to be dishonest, you better have a really good memory. But if you tell the truth, you can have a memory that's only that big. See, when you constantly stretch the truth, you constantly have to remember what the truth really was. A couple years ago, I was getting ready to get on an airplane. I travel a lot, as I told you in the first unit. I had a really long day. It'd been pretty intense. And I was standing in Cincinnati Airport, and all I wanted was to get on the plane and take a nap. That was my major objective. I wanted to get on the plane, and I wanted to take a nap. Now, on Delta, you have certain levels of service, or certain levels of tells how much you've flown. You have silver, gold, you have platinum. There's a new one called diamond, and then there's guys like me, aluminum. I'm a 3 million plus miler on Delta. I know the system. Matter of fact, I know the movements that those people that are getting ready to announce the flights make right before they get ready to announce the flight. I just know the system that well. So I'm standing there in Cincinnati, and I'm sensing this lady's getting ready to open up the gate, and I just, I'm first one in line, because I'm going to be first on that plane. I'm going to be the first one to put my bags up. I'm going to put my feet, shove them underneath the seat as far as I can, and I'm going to take me a great nap because I'm tired. And sure enough, she was getting ready to load the plane, and I carried my luggage out. It was one of those little CRJs, Canadian Regional Jets. So you had to put your big bag on a little cart so they could put it on the plane, and you could only carry your small carry-ons on. So as I'm putting my luggage on the cart, a guy slips around me. Now, I can remember in kindergarten my teachers saying, "Take your turn." Obviously, his teacher didn't tell him that. Wasn't a big deal. It's one person, but you have to understand, I wanted to be on that plane. I just got on the plane behind this guy. Of all the people to get in front of me, I had to get behind the guy that didn't understand physics. See, he didn't understand that a big bag won't go in a little hole. He was standing there trying his best to force that bag into that hole. Now, my mama was very effective at teaching me one principle, and it's the principle I want you to get from this lecture. Keep thoughts to yourself. Just keep thoughts to yourself. If you've got something that you just wants to slip out of your mouth, you really like to, just keep it to yourself. Now, if you keep it to yourself, it's great entertainment, because I entertain myself with this self-thinking. I'm standing there watching this guy try to shove this big bag in a little hole, and I'm thinking, how many times have I seen my wife get into a pair of blue jeans by laying down on the bed, and I keep telling her, it's, big bag, little hole. So I think to myself, it's not going in there. It's physically impossible. It's too big. It's too broad. And he's shoving. He's working. And he looks around at me and says this: as soon as I get this bag in this overhead compartment, I will let you by. Now, here's what I was thinking. Well, I better call Social Security, because they'll need to know where to deliver the check, because this guy's not going to ever get that bag in that hole. He's pushing. Now, here's the picture you need to see. I am barely in the door of the CRJ. Everybody behind me thinks it's me. And they don't adhere to that policy of thinking to yourself. People are saying things not that kind about me, and I didn't know what to do other than the fact I needed to do something because this bag was not going in this hole. And I asked this guy, you fly a lot? He said, I do, mostly overseas and on big planes. I don't think I've ever been on a small plane like this. And I said, I kind of thought so. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I bet you don't know that bag can go out on a cart outside the plane and they will hand it to you as you get off the plane. Seriously? Yeah, I didn't think you knew that. But here's what I know. It's just a general observation. I hope it's okay, sir, if I make it. There's something in that bag that you want to work on this plane. He goes, yeah. I'm giving this big presentation tomorrow, and I really need to finalize my PowerPoint. I go, can I make a suggestion? He said, sure. I said, take out your computer. Take out your files. Give me your bag. I'll be more than happy to take it down and put it on the cart for you. Seriously? Be my pleasure. He took out his computer, took out his file, handed me the bag. Now, of course, now everybody thinks it's me as I go back to this upstream of all these people waiting to get on the plane. And it's hot outside, and, I get the look like, goober, put it on the cart. Well, guess who was the last person on the plane? Me. But it's okay. I got to my seat. I slid my feet under. I had a great nap. Now, this is one of those really weird plane flights where you go from a hub to a hub. So I go from Cincinnati to Atlanta so that I could fly down to Gulfport, Mississippi, where I was going to be speaking the very next day to a company called Cisco Systems. I'm sure you have heard of them. I get out of the plane in Atlanta. I'm almost the last guy on the plane back on the flight to Atlanta down to Gulfport, Mississippi, because I was catching me a little snack, bite of food. I get on the plane. I read my USA Today. I get off the plane in Gulfport, Mississippi. I get my rental car. I go to the Beau Rivage, a beautiful resort down in Gulfport, Mississippi. Get up the next morning, get dressed, go down to do my half-day presentation on sales and service. And when I walked into the room where I would be speaking to 2,800 employees from Cisco Systems, I saw him opening up his computer, getting ready to make his presentation. The president and CEO of Cisco Systems. Yeah, the guy with the big bag and the little hole. When he saw me, he couldn't believe it. He said, you're the guy on the plane that helped me with my bag. I said, yeah, that's right. And he got up to introduce me, and he put my formal introduction down and proceeded to tell the people at this conference how wonderful a leader I was. Now let's back up just a second. Let's get back on that flight leaving Cincinnati. How about me telling this guy, hey, Goob, that big bag ain't going in that little hole. Forrest, you might want to try taking it outside. But see, I kept that to myself. I did the ethical. I took the high road. I think it was worth it. Matter of fact, I think it's always worth it. Even when it might be a little uncomfortable. You see, what I'm really talking about here is a paradigm. It's a new way of thinking, because for so long, truth is just something that sometimes gets in the way. It's never not cool to be truthful. It's always cool. It's always the thing to do. But Dale, I can think of the, no, you can't. But there's this situation. No, it's not. Just be ethical. Do what is right. Joel Barker, a number of years ago, introduced this whole paradigm theory to the business world. A very, very interesting way of thinking. Let me take you from now backwards. Do you think 2 years ago the management and employees of Blockbuster had any idea what was getting ready to happen to their industry? Redbox. I bet those guys went to work and they were planning 5 years ahead. They were doing their 5-year plan. They were getting everything they needed to do to get business done. But yet, what was getting ready to happen to them would set everybody in the video industry back to square one. You see, you don't have to have employees in a big store to rent videos. You just have to have technology. The next, of course, paradigm that I'm sure we're going to see is you don't need to have a box in the parking lot of the Walmart to buy. You can just get it online. We live in an ever-changing world. So to help you understand how that ever-changing world revolves, let me take you back in history. Let me take you back to history in the 1950s, way before many of you were born. I had just barely come around, but let me tell you what was happening in a little country called Japan. The Japanese government decided that by the end of the 1950s that they were going to own the textile industry. It became a national goal. By the end of the 1950s, you could not buy textiles from any other country that were as good and as inexpensive that you could get from Japan. Now, that's going to be a hard thing to understand for most of your grandparents, because if you wanted to find something that was cheap, something that was a trinket, it had those three names on the bottom of that product, made in Japan. See, for that generation, for our parents' and grandparents' generation, made in Japan meant this: cheap. Not quality, not good, cheap. So the Japanese government owned the textile industry in the late 50s. In the 60s, they said, we're going to own electronics. The world laughed at them. Made in Japan, owning electronics? I don't think so. And then Sony came along, and they owned electronics. In the 70s, they really went off the deep end. They said, in the 70s, we will own the automobile industry. Now, if it was hard for anybody on the planet to think that they could own electronics, owning the automobile industry had to be a big joke. I mean, come on, in this country, we had Detroit. But I want to take you back to the 70s. In 1970, if you bought an automobile, and that automobile had 50,000 miles on it, you were thinking about buying a new automobile. Because after 50,000 miles, that was just about it. And then here come Honda, a little bitty car company. And by the end of that 1970 decade, Honda was in control of the... You see, paradigms work this way. When something changes, everything changes. Change in our line of work, in managing people, in looking at the way we lead them, has definitely reached that paradigm. Walk into any fast food place right now. A industry that has always hired teenagers, high school students, young college students trying to get their way. It has totally been a young world. But walk in now. More and more and more you start to see older employees. People who, hey, they just need something to bump their Social Security a little bit. But here's the really interesting thing. Which one of these two employees do you think give better service? You see, it might not be in the too far distant future that we see a lot more older folks working at McDonald's and Burger King, just because they better understand managing skills, they better understand how to deal with the customer. So in a workforce where we're starting to see older folks enter again, you might want to think about how that whole paradigm plays out, how the whole option of who we will be working with in the next several years. Gender. Wow, who would have ever thought in my generation that there would be as many women and men both working in industry? Growing up, there were tons of occupations that were just men and tons of occupations that were just women. All those lines have been very blurred. As a matter of fact, I can tell you through years of experience that I would 10 times to 1, would rather work in an organization that had a great balance of male-female than to work in an organization which was skewed toward one or the other. I think it drives us toward excellence. I think it drives us toward doing a better job. I think Joel Barker would say it's the new paradigm that all of us have to deal with. But the thing that we really have to watch is how do we treat these employees? How do we look at and monitor fairness? A lot of you will be in your management duties, you will be interviewing people and you will be doing semi-annual and annual reviews. One of the things that I would tell you as managers is don't accept when an employee says the same thing at 2 reviews. What's your 5-year goal? And they give you the same answer. See, because that's going to be their 5-year goal for the next 25 years. It's never going to change. And the reason that they do not grow is because you are not the one there saying, hey, I thought you said you were going to go to school. Hey, I thought you said you were going to join some professional organization. Hey, see, there's going to be a point where they know every time they see you, you're going to mention that to them. You see, their growth really is up to you, the manager. Now, I want to give you a word. I really like this word. And to be honest with you, I worked a lot in leadership and management before I ever discovered this word. It's ductus, D-U-C-T-U-S, ductus. It is a Latin word that basically means the same as lead. We have ducts in the room that I'm in right now that bring air-conditioned and heated air to this room. A ductus really means bringing the best to a place. So I want you to start thinking about how you can become that ductus in leadership and management. How can you bring the best of what's off-site onto on-site? The best training, the best methods of leading, the best methods of serving folks. Here is a phrase that a lot of us love to say. Competition is good. No, competition is not good. I'll be honest with you, I don't want to have a competitor. I want to be the only person out there that does what I do. See, that way you would have to call me every time you needed something. But we have competition. Now, I could say this to you as you were sitting there watching this video lecture. Do you think competition is good? No, you wouldn't. Because competition means if somebody else does it better than you, then you lose your job. So when you hear the word competition, your brain goes to a certain place. Joel Barker would love this. So if I said to you, name a competitor's name for the business that you are in right now. Well, here's what would happen. If you were in the car business, you'd start naming off car companies. If you were in the service industry, you'd start naming off people who did what you did. If you asked me that, I might say Joe Calloway is a good friend of mine who competes in my markets. If you were a bank, you would name off banks. If you were an insurance company, you would name off other insurance companies. You see, we tend to think one-dimensionally. But let's say that I was going to come and do business with you. Let's say this is a Monday and I want to make an appointment with you on Thursday afternoon, say 1 o'clock after lunch. Okay? So we're meeting 1 o'clock after lunch. You got that, right? You know I'm coming to your office. course, it's impossible for me to know what you do, so I'm going to generically put it this way. Okay, so I'm going to speak to you about a piece of business, a business transaction. I get up on Thursday morning, and I live in a little town called Harriman, Tennessee. I like breakfast. I'm a breakfast guy. I'm from the South, so to me, gravy is a beverage. I love to eat. So I'm going to probably go to the Cracker Barrel. Got a Cracker Barrel right there in Harriman, Tennessee. Going to walk into the Cracker Barrel, and the second I hit the door, here's what I'm going to hear. Dr. Henry, how you doing? Hey, Dale, what's going on? Hey, how are your kids? I understand Leanne just had your new grandson. How is he doing? He's stellar. Lauren and Brandon were in here the other day. Kaylee sure is starting to grow, my other granddaughter. Now, when you walk into a place and you get that kind of interaction, how does it make you feel? Pretty good. I walked over to the gatekeeper. If you've ever eaten a Cracker Barrel, you know who the gatekeeper is. This is the woman who stands behind the little stand there. You probably want to say something to her. I wouldn't go into the eating place without it. She'll probably grab you by the collar and say, "Where you going?" I'm the gatekeeper. And I walked up to the gatekeeper. It was Carol. Carol, how you doing? Doing really good. Dale, yourself, doing good. Deb eating with you today? Yes, she's outside talking. She'll come in when she feels like it. I discovered a long time ago, Carol, as a man, you get two choices. You can be right or you can be happy, but you can't be both. So Carol takes me and says, "Now, where would you like to sit, Dale?" I said, "I don't know who's working today." Penny's working. I'll put me at Penny's table. Penny's one of my daughter's friends working her way through college. And Penny comes over and she goes, "Deb with you, Dale?" Yes, she is. "Well, Dr. Henry, would you like me to wait?" "Yeah, please wait till she gets here. Probably wouldn't be smart for me to eat without her." Deb comes in, sits down. Penny comes over, says the most unique thing. She says, "You guys want the usual?" You got to love a place that knows your needs before you actually order it. We have a great breakfast, and then I go out, and there's a lady who's always there. And the interesting thing, I don't know her name, but I think she has a cot behind the counter. She's always there. She always takes my money. And she says, "How was your meal?" And I said, "Awful." And we laugh, and I say, "Awful good." Now I leave, and of course I've got a few minutes before our meeting after lunch, so I've been nursing a front tire on my BMW that's been bouncing a little bit. So I go over to B&W Tires, operated by two brothers, Bill and William. Didn't say they were creative, just said they were brothers. And one of those two brothers will come out the car, open the door for me as I pull into the parking lot, which I think is awesome, but also requires some thought. Now, why would they come out and open the door? Because that's where your tires are. I mean, if you walked into a tire store going, "Hey, I got a problem," no, they're always on your car. So they come out, and Bill says, "Well, what's going on, Dr. Dale?" And I said, "Well, my front tire's bounced." And he goes, "Hey, look, I have one of the boys take a look at it. They take my car into the garage. I go into the office to say hi to their mother because their mother runs the office for them. And there's always a Krispy Kreme donut. And I'm kind of into Krispy Kreme donuts. So 5 minutes later, he comes out. Your car's ready. I do the man thing, reach for my wallet. "Oh, Dr. Henry, your money's no good here. Where do you buy your tires?" "I'll buy them here." "Where do you buy your kids' tires?" "Here, your wife here." "Thanks for your business, Dr. Henry. It's on us." Oh, man, I feel good. Got a few minutes, though, right before our meeting after lunch, and I get in the car and I notice it's time for the oil change. And Deb, my wife's always so good about doing that, but I think, you know what the heck, I'll do it this time. So I pull into the oil change place, Sexton Cooks in Harriman, Tennessee. And the guy comes out and he scans my windshield. I mean, come on, I know he doesn't know who I am, but it's in the computer. "Dr. Henry, how are you?" "Deborah usually brings your car in. It's great to see." "Oh, hey, look, what a great time for you to be here because we love your wife, Deborah." I said, "Well, that's cool. So do I." No. Because, see, every time she comes, she brings cookies. And I said, "Well, I wish I'd known." I'd go, "Oh, no, that's okay. I'm not saying that because she didn't bring cookies. I'm just saying we appreciate her because she always does. But we love your wife's chocolate chip cookies. every now and then she brings those oatmeal raisin cookies. We're not as fond of those. And besides that, none of the guys here have that problem. So I said, I'll tell Deborah about the cookies. I'll do it in a way that she'll always bring chocolate. Oh, Dr. Tina, that'd be awesome. So I go in, I sit down, they change the oil. I get out, he said, now tell Deb next time she comes, expect to spend a little extra time. Her transmission fluid needs to be changed. And hey, tell Deborah we said hi. What kind of morning is that? That's great. I've had a great breakfast. I got great service. I got my tires rotated. It didn't cost me anything because I was a good customer. They appreciated my patronage. I go to an oil change place that talks about my wife, makes me feel good, and I come to see you. See, your competition is not the people who do what you do. If you're an insurance company, your competition is not other insurance companies. Oh, they are your competition too. But you see, you're in competition with every single business on this planet, because we will judge your service against theirs. Not because you sell the same thing, but because you service well. In this unit, we covered a little spectrum of things, Joe Barker and his theory of paradigms. We've covered ethical behavior and why it's important to always do the right thing, because eventually you're going to have to do business with those people. I have another little caveat to add to that before we close out this unit, and that is when you're out talking about those people who you are competitors, those folks that do what you do, and other people ask, why should I do business with you when I can do business with them? The answer isn't because they don't do as good a job as we do. They're shoddy, they lie, no. Remember what your mom said, if you have anything bad to say, keep it to yourself. If you cannot get that business by telling them how much better you can do it, how much better service you will give them, how much more wonderful your employees are, and how that mix of employees, gender-wise, age-wise. See, we have to really learn how to build people up. And here's my parting thought. Let's say I walk into your office and you and I are friends. Matter of fact, we've been friends our whole life. 20 years we've known each other. We play golf together. We go fishing together. My wife knows your wife. My kids know your kids. We do lunch all the time. We're good friends. You understand, friends? And I walk in, and on my way there, I'm in a reflective mode. Now, those ladies listening to this lesson, please understand this is not something that happens very often between guys. But I walk into my friend's office and I say this, you know what, Bob, we've known each other for 20 years. And as I was driving here today, it occurred to me that I have not told you how much I appreciate your friendship. The things you have done for my family, the things you have done for me. And I just want you to know that those things have not gone unnoticed. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. That's a nice thing to say. Makes people feel good. But let's change that just for a second. Let's look at it from a new perspective. I walk into that building to see my good friend, but instead I see a colleague of his, someone I do not know. Matter of fact, I have never met them, but I see their name tag, and I walk up and I go, Carl, you know, man, we've never met, but you and I both know John, and John talks about you all the time. When he has a problem, you're the fix-it guy. When he's in a bind, you always come through. Look, not too long ago, we want to do something on the weekend, and you worked for him. Can I just tell you something? My friend thinks you're the best. Now, which one of those two compliments is better? I like the second one. Because you see, not only have you made somebody you've never met feel good, but you made your friend look good. That's the way management is. If you cannot build people up, then you're tearing people down. Be careful how you talk to folks. Everything you say is put in a balance, and it is weighed. Thanks for being to Unit 2. Look forward to seeing you next week. Have a blessed day. Take care.